Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great week so far. So, I wanted to make this video to discuss our Module 3 and what you're going to be doing and working on. So, I have received many emails from you stating your choice for the case study project. So, thank you to those who have submitted it. So, I usually will email students back to let them know I recorded their choice, and you will find the recorded choice on the course homepage. So, when you log into our class, you're going to see a table. Remember, you were to choose which student you felt that you'd want to use. Remember, for this project, you will continue to use the same student for every project that we do. So this week, we have our first case study project. I did include a case study video here for you that explains the case study project. Also, if you need help with inclusive practices field work, I included a video there for you. So please make sure you watch these videos. These videos really kind of talk about the explanation of what the assignment is, but the expectations as well, which is important for you since this is the online course. So please utilize those videos as they are very helpful. So this week, we're really going to be working on Module 3 that talks about what are the likenesses and differences among children. So I wanted to start here and I'm not going to go through everything, but I did want to know as you're going through the module, the first part really here is going to explain, right? It's looking at the overview of kind of a snapshot of what you'll be doing, your objectives and focusing questions, maybe some terminology, what kind of reading and resources will you be using. So that's really helpful before you actually get into the lessons. Now remember, each module is 2 weeks long. So you actually have 2 weeks to complete the two lessons. And within that module, you will have assignments. So, like for module 3, you're going to complete your very first case study assignment, right? So, I didn't give you a module 3 assignment. We're going to start our case study project work. And of course, you're going to have your quiz, which we'll get to that in just a minute. But I wanted to kind of walk through real quick and highlight some important things for you for this week. So, Module 3 overview really is talking about we are looking at the development of children, right? Of what we consider typical of a children who may have a disability or delay. So, really, the first lesson, it really supports our textbook, right? Where we're looking at what are the causes or prevalence of disability. So, what are some of the risk factors that may result in some developmental delays? So, the first two modules we did were really concerning more for the need of how we monitor the development, right, through the CDC. And we really looked at the classification of disabilities under IDEIA. We're looking at parts B and C. That you're going to see a lot in 3.1. Now, the second lesson, 3.2, really aligns with the three chapters in the text that really looks at disabilities as a broader grouping. And what we mean by that is, we're looking at multiple factors. We're looking at sensory, physical health, and learning behavioral. So this first case study assignment that you're going to be doing is really going to be researching the disability or need of your uh, special education child, so your case study child. You're going to have to research that disability and put together a PowerPoint presentation that will be shared with the class. Now, obviously, you will be having to include research, right? So, this research is really going to help you be able to dive deeper. And I'm actually going to be including some videos here for you that is going to help you. So, the librarian put together a video that will help you navigate the library database and search engines and talk about that as well as how you cite your sources because that will have to be included in your presentation. So what you will be reading this week is obviously within the lessons there's reading you can do, focusing questions, but you will have your assigned textbook chapters that you will read. We also have some video links that you can watch. um, if you ever have questions, you can obviously reach out to me. I do have a discussion board called I Have a Question. That's optional, but you can. I check it at least once a week, but if you need a quicker answer, it's probably best just to reach out through email. And we could even set up a Teams meeting should you have any questions or concerns. So, looking at the actual assignment and how you're going to be assessed is going to be two things. It will be your quiz for Module 3 as well as the case study PowerPoint project that will be due. I extended the due date. I know on the calendar it says the 18th, but I went ahead and gave us an extra day because I know this is a big project. So it is due February 19th. So just make sure that you put that in your notes so you know the due date of when it's due. So here are your learning objectives. So this week we're really going to be able, obviously we're going to hit our objectives here, right? So our outcome really for our course outcomes is we want you to be able to identify recommended practices and elements for inclusive early childhood programs. You also are going to know and understand the causes of classification and characteristics of developmental disabilities, right? So we have some modules. So these are the things I want you to be able to do when you're done with this module, right? So describe children referred to as typical, atypical, developmentally delayed, at risk, and gifted. So we need to be able to understand the differences of those. You should be able to list several possible causes of developmental disabilities. Discuss the correlation between poverty and developmental disabilities in young children. Recognize the federal education categories of disabling conditions. Discuss sensory problems and describe their impact on the development and education of young children. Explain the possible effects of physical and health disabilities and their impact on the development of and education of young children. And the last one is discuss learning and behavioral disabilities and describe their impact on the development and education of young children. So see there's lots of objectives in this module. I also give you some guided questions that can help you. So please be sure to always read these because this kind of lets you be able to start thinking about these things as you're going through the two lessons. Okay, so this tells you the chapters you will be reading in Module 3. I listed the vocabulary here for you as well. Now, getting into the first lesson, I'm not going to click on these for the sake of time, but I want you to see here that this is really going to go and start looking at the different causes and classification of disabilities, right? What is it what is it talking about when we say typical or atypical? What is your role in the classroom? What are some prevalences or causes of developmental disabilities? And how are they classified and defined? And again, that goes back to the IDEIA that we discussed. Um, and then we're going to specifically end the first lesson talking about young children who are gifted and talented. Okay, in the second lesson, we're really going to start looking at disabilities by types, right? So there's different types. So the first one we're going to dive into is sensory impairments. How do you provide educational supports for those who have sensory impairments? Then we look at physical disabilities or health issues and what kind of supports can you have inside the classroom. And then the last one is learning or behavioral disabilities and what kind of supports as an educator can you provide. So after you complete those, you will be looking at the bottom, which is your assignment. So this is where you're going to complete your first case study work. So module 3 is really talking about disability. So in order for you to be able to support your child, you have to understand their disability. Okay. So you're going to complete a PowerPoint presentation about the specific disability your child in the case study has. So when you're creating the PowerPoint, really we're looking specifically at the condition or the disability. The purpose of this project is really for you to be informed of the child's condition, right? How is this going to impact them in the child education and the child in the educational setting? So you're going to be making plans in the future for that child. But in order for us to do that, we have to give a good base understanding, which is going to benefit us later on. So when you are doing your presentation, you're going to have to do research, right? So the things that we're going to look at is defining the definition. So this information you're going to research, obviously, and some of this is included in your case study synopsis of your child, but some of this is not. So this is where research is going to come in. You should be looking at these things, right? Researching, and then these are the things you're going to include in your PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So you should be able to define the condition, define the disability category the child will receive services for. And when you're researching, you really need to start under Tennessee State Department of Education underneath special education eligibility. Okay, you can get there. You can just even do this and copy it and then open up a new tab and you can Google search it and you're going to see it's going to pop up. Okay, so that would be where I would start. So, what you would do is once you get to that page, you're going to have to click on the first section there, the first tab. And then you're going to see that under the Tennessee Department of Education, under special education evaluation eligibility, you're going to have all the disabilities listed there. Okay, so that's where you're going to start. So that's what I want you to look for. So, how you define the disability categories, you have to know what disability your child has, right? So, that would be under the information under case study. So, how you find that, again, if you're unfamiliar, if you go to table of contents and you scroll down, underneath module 2, you're going to see case studies. Okay, this is where you have all the case study. Obviously, the one you emailed me, your choice on the table, that's what you look at. So, let's say you chose Lily. In here is a great synopsis because it shows you a picture of Lily. It tells you her demographic information, her appearance, what's her history. It tells you what's going on. It labels her disability here. As far as a medical diagnosis, it tells you about kind of what sets her off, how is she, and then it talks about the current school or the program that Lily's in, right? And how she's been evaluated, where she is. And it talks about her schedule and her setting now. So, all these things are important. Some of them may not be as important now, but they will be later on, right? When we're transitioning to our new program. But the things I want you to look at for now is really her diagnosis. Okay, what is going on? What has she been diagnosed with as far as her disability? Because that's going to help start your research. So, looking back at Module 3 and going back down to our actual case study work, when you're creating this presentation and you're doing your research, I want you to make sure that you are researching and including this, right? So, how do you define it under Tennessee state? Like if she has a functional delay or developmental delay or she was deaf, what do they define that as? So then you would include that. How is it determined? How does a child qualify under this disability? A lot of the information is here. What are the causes or prevalence of the disabilities? What are the characteristics of the disability, right? That's from lifespan, from infancy to adulthood. So make sure that you focus on the age of the child now, but you can include what could happen over the lifespan into adulthood. What are some educational consideration in the early childhood environment? So remember, this is going to really include lots of things. It's going to include instructional methods and strategies, any environmental adaptations, and then social support as well as family support. So these are things that you should consider and really research. Okay, remember, when we're talking about instructional methods and strategies here, we're really talking about modifications and accommodations, looking at the age of the child now. Okay, when we're talking about the environment, this is physical changes or schedule changes, as well as any access needs. Social support is really that child being a part of the classroom, right? Things that you can do to encourage the social skills and acceptance of peers. Family supports is also a section that will be completed. Like, what are support groups are available for them? What are some resources that could be listed that help students with this disability? Now, you need to have a minimum of 4 resources in your research. There is a video here for your stuff like APA because you're going to be using APA format to cite. So at the very end of your PowerPoint, you should have a reference page, right? So this is where you're going to do your citing of sources. So how you're going to lay this out and requirements as far as formatting is going to be the first slide is really going to be the title of your presentation, right? The second, make sure that your fonts are easy to read, they're accessible for all, you have appropriate headings and text. Make sure the colors and background's not distracting. You have to have at least 4 slides that include images, right? And one of those need to be like an image or graph. So they need to be appropriate and related to the content. And the next thing I also look at is really the flow. Is it organized? Is it related to the information? Does it make sense and flow? And I also look at your errors, right? In grammar, capitalization, punctuation, and spelling. So once I review and grade it, I will tell you, what you've made, and I will also email you saying that it's been graded. Now, keep in mind, projects like this take a little longer to grade than a weekly assignment. So, this is something that will take me a little bit of time to grade. But I have included the rubric here for you so that way you're aware of the competencies, but also aware of how you need to meet the expectations. Okay, so one thing I wanted to note, I put in here the standards and key competencies and things that should be included. So, in order to meet expectations, you have to have all this information included. But in order to exceed, you have to have this and this. So, just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so that's how you will be graded. I'm going to list, if we go back to Module 1, okay, and scroll down. Underneath here, I'm going to put resources, and that's just going to be where I'm going to include those library videos that I think will really help you in this project work. Now, this project work I said would allow you to do the 19th. However, I'm going to keep the Module 3 quiz the same date. So it's going to be in our course schedule, and that will be due on the 18th. Okay, so that is all for this module. Like I said, you have 2 weeks to complete this. Um, so just email me, reach out if you have any questions. Also, when you're doing your research, we do have a librarian embedded. So if you go to class list and you scroll down, it's going to say research coach. Okay, so there's our librarian, and she'll be more than happy to help you any way that she can, and she will be able to help you answer questions about citations and maybe researching the library database and anything that you might have related to research. So please utilize her if you have any questions. All right, guys, I hope that you have a great week, and until next time, take care.